Hello and welcome to another in the series of educational videos from Alphi with Elliot Omanson and
Nathaniel Vossman.
Today we're talking about something that is super crucial, I think. And I think it's a question that just about every American going into retirement has, just due to the fact that every American going into retirement almost has this asset. And rarely do I think people think of it as an asset.
Yeah, very rarely. Yeah.
Okay, and so before we get into what we're talking about, I'm actually gonna when we do seminars, one of my favorite questions to ask is how many people in the room think the U.S. government's going to give them $1 million to retire off of? And you've seen me ask this question, right?
Every time.
Did anyone say yes?
No. Yeah. No one. No one thinks it.
No one does.
Not a single one.
No one does. But if you're with a traditional firm or you're a traditional advisor out there and you buy into the 60-40 portfolio, the 4% rule, in order for me to get a $40,000 stream of income, that means I have to have $1 million invested. How many people do you think in our area are going to get $40,000 a year or more in Social Security income?
Probably a pretty good amount.
Pretty good amount.
Yeah.
So in order to recreate your Social Security, you would need a minimum of $1 million. And in reality, it's probably higher.
Yeah, probably more because this one has, like we talked about the failure rate on a 4% rule.
This has no failure 0%. Rate. This is a 0% failure rate. It has a built-in cost of living adjustment, and it's guaranteed for life by the U.S. government. Now, I guess my question is kind of a trick question because they're not, in a sense, they're giving it to you, but they took it from you in order to give it to you.
Yeah.
But it's been ruled on by the Supreme Court that it's not your money. So they don't have to give it to you.
Feels like my money, but yeah.
It feels like your money when you see it coming out of your paycheck.
Take it away, yeah.
But they don't have to give it to you, and they can do with it whatever they want. So in reality, if you're getting over $40,000 a year, you would need $1 million or more in order to recreate this. Now, there's a huge difference between this income stream and, say, creating a $40,000 a year income stream off of money in the market. But one of the primary differences, I feel like, is that you have one, and there's a caveat to this, but you pretty much have one opportunity to select how you're going to get your Social Security. And then that kind of gets locked in. Now, there are some caveats. It's been a while since I've really had to deal with this a lot. But back in like 14, 15, and 16, when I did, it is possible to have stop it. Or there was. I don't know if there still is. Sometimes you have to pay it back and restart it and stuff like that. But for the most part, let's just call it, you're going to at some point activate your Social Security income. And once you do, that's locked in. And however you did it, and whatever the impacts are from it, you're going to deal with for the rest of your life. So if I was going to make a decision about $1 million bucket of money, and once I did, that decision was locked in, I'd probably want to make sure I understood the decision I was making.
Yeah. It's a big one. It can make a big impact.
Yeah.
Especially, and we'll get into it, especially when you got, yourself and then a spouse and coordinating between the two. Because, after your spouse dies, as we'll get into it, you keep the bigger benefit, which, depending on how you plan it, you could do it well, or maybe you're shooting yourself in the foot by taking it too early or maybe taking it too late.
Yeah. And so another concept that I like to apply to retirement planning and probably all of life, but just in nature what I do, it's usually in regards to retirement planning, is small hinges swing big doors, right? And so I don't care how much money somebody has. Every little decision compounds, especially maybe it's, in life, right? Because it's a long road. Hopefully it's a long road, right? So these little decisions that we make at 59 and a half or at 62, like we got decades, hopefully, for the impact of that decision to be felt. So that's why we're doing a whole segment on Social Security. I think we've got, 4 hours planned for this video?
I think so at this point.
No,
at this rate, I think so. So we'll go ahead and start it off kind of high level. following what we just talked about there, so why is deciding when to take Social Security such a big financial decision?
Well, one, I think it's a awesome plank in your income foundation, right? Two, for the most part, it's permanent once you make that decision. Three, there are ways to really increase your monthly benefits. And as you point out here, monthly benefits can be over 75% higher if comparing age 62 to 70. And it's not just your income, it's affecting yours, your spouse's, and future income, as you just got done acknowledging, even after one of you passes.
Yeah.
Right? And we're going to get into it. How you take it also impacts taxes.
Yep.
Right? So it kind of hits on a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
So
you kind of want to explain like what happens if you take it early versus, I guess, what happens if you delay all the way up until 70. So you can take it as soon as 62, or you can delay up to 70. Like, what's the impact of waiting, and what would be an example of why someone should wait versus someone should maybe take it earlier?
Yeah. So there's one thing to keep in mind when you're having this conversation. Social Security is designed so that no matter when you trigger between 62 or 70, if you live to the government's actuarial projected death tables of life expectancy, you will not get a single dollar more if you wait till 70 than if you take it 62. All right? I don't know how many people know that, but it's literally designed to pay out the exact same dollar amount.
At that particular age?
Yeah, so if you die when they plan on you dying,
then it's all the same.
It's all the exact same money. Now, you might think that means, does it really matter when I take it? Oh, no, it does. Because complexity, nuance, right? So as we've already acknowledged, you can start taking benefits at 62. For every year you delay, you get an 8% increase. Now, that's not 8% compounded.
Yeah.
Right? If you trigger early, your payments are permanently reduced, right? So that's, if you take it fully early, it's 30% reduction.
Yeah.
If you delay it to its max of 70, you get 25% increase from the full retirement age amount. And they do base it on months. So you don't have to.
Yeah, it's not like
it's not January.
Yeah.
Right. Now, then again, and luckily we're past the way, this used to be way more complex, but I think we've moved out of that a little bit. But if taken before full retirement age while working, they reduce your benefits by $1 for every $2 earned above $24,480, which is the limit for 2026. Now, when I first came into this industry, they took that money and you never got it back.
It sucks.
Yeah. When in 2015, when the Democrat-controlled Congress, Democrat-controlled Senate, and the Democrat president stripped the two most lucrative ways of filing for Social Security out of Social Security, costing just about every married couple in our area $250,000 in lifetime income benefits. They did do you a favor, and I think they were right to do what they did, by the way, because the system's unsustainable, and if they don't start figuring out how to reduce benefits, there's going to be a problem. So I actually think they did the hard thing that no one ever does. I just think it's funny that people try to say one side's going to do it and the other side isn't. Well, they both better do it.
Yeah.
All right. But they just need to do it in a way that doesn't impact people who are expecting it and betting on it and planning on it, right? So what they did in that change is they made it to where the money's withheld, but then returned back to you once you start taking benefit, once you hit full retirement age.
Yeah.
So it's no longer where they take it from you and you never get it. They just take it from you and then pay it back later. So you had said, what's an example of why somebody would want to delay?
Yeah, or take it early in some cases.
Well, so, you have question 5 down here. Why do people often hear waiting is better? All right, and so I'm going to kind of dip into that a little bit right now.
Let's do it.
If you Google and look for articles on this topic, you will find the predominant opinion is that, and I'll give you all these statistics. This is what I hate about the main rules of thumb, so to speak. They'll tell you that research shows that people who take Social Security early have more financial difficulty or more broke later in life. Okay. Well, if you think about it, the preponderance of people, whatever that word is, the majority of people who take Social Security early are probably people with less assets to start with.
Definitely, because they need it.
They need it. That's why they took it early. Okay. For the most part.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Now, usually when I'm working with people and they've planned properly, they've set money aside, they've invested, right? Well, one of the questions that we like to look at is it better for you to take Social Security today, even though you have a bunch of assets, because for every dollar of Social Security you're getting the delay taking a dollar out of those investments. And most likely, even if it's 5 or 6% returns on average, those investments are wildly outperforming Social Security. So when is it best to take it early? Well, when is it best to delay? Rarely do I see it best for both partners. Usually when we're talking about having a delay in Social Security, it might be one of the two.
Yep. And
we might delay the higher of the two. And so you're still getting some Social Security now. You're delaying one of them to get that 8% each year. So that way, when the spouse, most likely the woman, usually females live longer, and usually they're younger than their husband. And usually, sometimes the husband's is the highest. So you delay his, you take the woman's Social Security, and so when he passes, she gets to step into this much larger guaranteed income stream. Right? That's one option. Sometimes we did, and this is rare, but we have people that are blessed with pensions, and it's covering their living requirements.
Yeah.
Sometimes they want to delay. We've also had people in here who everyone in their family lives to the late 90s. And I think that's another point that you get into here is there comes a point when you delay, it's just like a Roth conversion in one of our previous videos. There's a period of time it takes you to make up what you didn't take and to break that threshold, and then you're in the money. Well, if I have long longevity in my genes and I'm healthy and there's no reason, I could get a lot more out of the Social Security Administration by delaying.
Yep.
Right? And vice versa, if I have a health issue or I'm of any kind, I'm not going to get into them, I might want to take early because otherwise I might be leaving money on the table.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I think that's a good point. Longevity makes a big difference, and I mean, no one knows how long they're going to live for, but looking at your own health history, looking at your own family health history, you get a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
And so if your parents both lived to be super long, grandparents lived to be super old, chances are you're also going to live to be super old. So maybe in that case, delaying would be a good idea.
And I love using this example of my great-grandmother and my grandmother. My great-grandmother lived in 98. She firmly believed she was allergic to water and would only drink beer and wine. Okay.
Lucky her.
And she lived in 98.
Yeah.
Now, my grandmother, on the other hand, passed at 92 or 94, somewhere in there. Still a long life.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But between 84 and when she passed, she had a mastectomy, 2 bowel obstruction removal surgeries, and 5 heart attacks. So one thing I stress to people all the time is, and she had dementia and her mind was completely gone for years before she passed. Yeah. The system, whether you want it to or not, is going to prolong your life.
This is true, yeah.
Okay? It's designed to do so. All right? So however long you think you're living, the odds are tack some years onto that.
Yeah.
And just take that into consideration when you're planning for your income needs and how you're going to take Social Security.
Yeah, I think it's always good to plan for, in this case, it's a good thing, but financially, planning for the worst case scenario, which in retirement,
A long
longevity
life, yes.
can be a bad thing. Even though, everyone,
Yeah.
for most part, everyone wants to live
Something,
long.
everything that's good is bad.
Yeah.
Everything that's bad is good.
Yeah. So you have to plan as if you're going to live pretty long, because you don't
Correct.
want to plan think you're going to live to 75 and then
you're
live to
broke.
95,
Yeah.
because that's a whole lot of income you're going to need.
Exactly.
Um,
And so you had something we can just keep going here, because like question 3, what happens if you wait to take Social Security, right? Well, so let's just point out full retirement age for anyone born 1960 or later is 67 years old. And we've already mentioned benefits are going to grow 8% from 67.
yes, from full retirement age to 70.
So our 32% and 25%, that does shift a little bit depending on.
Yeah. I had like a chart that broke down. I don't have it on here, but it breaks down roughly how much it increases per year, and it's close to 8% in those first few years.
Yeah, so
but
60,
it goes from 70 all the way up to 100% at 67,
Yes.
and then you go up to 124 by age 70.
Yeah, it used to be when full retirement age was like 65. It was definitely like I think it was a 32% increase. Yeah, and now it's down to a 24% increase.
Yeah.
All right. Now, question for you. So did they leave early retirement, taking Social Security at 62, even though they've increased full retirement age out to 67 from 65, they've left the earliest age at which you can turn it on still at 62?
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Yep. And then
you'd think if they had moved 65 to 67, they'd have moved 62 to 64.
Yeah, you would think so, but you still start at 62. You're just permanently capping yourself at 70% of the benefits you could have had at full retirement age, and then if you waited further, you could have had even more.
Yeah, and again, that has to be analyzed in conjunction with your other assets and other income, right?
Yeah, looking at the full picture.
Yeah. So should we get into how big that actual difference is in dollars?
Yeah, it gets.
You answer that one.
It gets to be pretty big. I mean, because if you're just going on based on percentages, like easy math, if let's say at full retirement age, you would get easy math $10,000. If you take that at 62, it'd be $7,000. If you take it at 70, it'd be $12,400, and that's a pretty big difference. But as we've kind of talked about, there's pros and cons to both, and maybe the right answer for you could be somewhere in the middle. Maybe you wait all the way to 70, or maybe you do need it at 62.
Yeah, and a lot of people get like part-time work in retirement, and then you got to look at how that's, is that triggering the $24,000 480 threshold to have benefits reduced if it's pre-full retirement age? Does that increase taxation on the Social Security you're getting, right? So there's just, this is why I don't know how anybody really did retirement planning before software. Because
there's so much to it.
There is just so much to it, and being able to build out these strategies into somebody's baseline and just click buttons and see what happens if I take Social Security at 62, 63, 64, 65, 67, all the way to 70, right? And getting to see how it impacts my taxation, how it impacts my net worth at passing, how it impacts my guaranteed income that I'm living off of while I'm retired. I don't know how you do that with a pad and paper or an Excel spreadsheet, unless you're an Excel wizard.
It's, there's just so much to it, because there's so many different sources of income in retirement, and so many different ways things are taxed. And and then you look at like Social Security, how Social Security's taxed. I mean, that's another layer of complexity. I mean, thank goodness for the softwares that we use.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes our job a lot more, not only a lot easier, but also a lot more accurate. Otherwise, you really just could be really setting yourself up for failure if you not actually take it in the full picture. So
yeah, and I'm always surprised at how many people come to me, and it's like the firm they were working with or the advisor they're working with is telling them stuff that's just their gut instinct.
Yeah.
I had a client tell me he'd given me a little bit of money, and he came back to me later, and he said, "Hey, I was talking to my advisor, and I had asked him why you're outperforming his portfolio by 2 times." And his response was to this client that I, as the advisor, had him in a bunch of super aggressive stuff, and that his portfolio was moderate and built for a person going in retirement. And I was like, let's see, right? Well, when I uploaded these portfolios into our portfolio analysis, which is software that pulls historical data and all this information, my portfolio was significantly less volatile. And it was just because his other advisor had been in the business for 30 years and just had all these antiquated ideas about the stocks that he was holding, and there was no actual scientific analysis being performed. It was all just conjecture and opinion and bias. And the thing that's done all the time with Social Security. It's done all the time with the different tools that are available. And I think one thing you've got to do is you've got to eliminate that and just look at the raw data.
Yeah, you got to take out the subjective thinking and make data-driven decisions.
Yeah.
And not be just relying on some antiquated idea. Like, for example, Social Security, some people just by default think that waiting is better.
Absolutely. Well,
it
I'm
might
getting
not be.
8% more.
It's like maybe taking it at 67 or maybe taking it at 66 is better. You don't know until you run the full simulation of your entire retirement plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a few more questions before we even get to how it's taxed. And that factors in.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
So why do you think people are always being told? I mean, I already mentioned one thing. If any article that talks about Social Security stresses that people that take it early end up broke later.
Yeah. And I do think your point about people who take it earlier are generally, not always, but generally people with less assets, and they need it more. So it's an example of the correlation. It's not causation.
Yes.
And I think definitely people are that's drilled into their mind just because, it is a nice annual bump. When you get to age 6-7, your benefits go up 8% per year. That's pretty big. But what's best for one person is not best for the other. If there's only one best answer, then everyone should be doing it. Why
would they even offer you to take it early?
Like most people want the most money they can get and have the most money in retirement. And so if there's one clear-eyed answer, no one would ever be taking at 62, 63, 64.
No. The government wouldn't even let you.
Exactly.
They would just change it to do what you want until 70.
Yeah.
And at 70, we're going to pay you this money.
Yeah. So I think that's just pretty similar to the whole idea of the 60-40 portfolio, 4% rule. It's just things that people have heard so much that they just assume it's the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you do, some people are very conservative, right? Social Security is a conservative asset. They may want the highest guaranteed income later in life, right? So that might cause them to, delay. We'd already talked about how if you live past expectations, you're in the money, right? By having delayed.
Yep.
You may want to set your spouse up for the highest amount of guaranteed income possible, in which case you're going to want to delay the highest of the two, right? And as you already said, that 8%, even though it's simple, it's not like that's a small increase.
Yeah, it's still pretty notable.
Yeah.
And I think your idea about delaying one of the two is a pretty good idea, especially since, again, this all generalities, not for everyone, but generally the man is older than the woman. Generally, the woman lives longer than the man. Yep. And generally, the man makes more money in his working years. And so, he'll likely have the higher benefits. Yeah. You delay that one, and then he probably passes before the woman, and the woman gets to keep his higher benefit for life. So I think that's also important, because you're not only deciding for yourself, but most people, not all, again, but a lot of people are married in retirement, and so you're not just deciding one benefit. You're deciding
you're deciding with both of you. Yeah, absolutely. And here's another, just food for thought for you. I've seen people who have pensions, and at their passing, the husband's passing or the wife's, the pension gets cut in half. And so they will delay a Social Security payment so that when that pension's cut in half, they kind of recoup some of what they lost off their pension.
Yeah.
So there's and like you just got done explaining, I don't think there's right or wrong answers most of the time. I just think there's effective, less effective, more effective answers. And then the only way you're going to find out what's more effective for you is to really drill down into it, explore all your options, and use software that can actually calculate it and show it to you.
Yeah. So do you want to get in a little bit on how Social Security is taxed?
Yeah, absolutely. So, because this is pretty interesting. So, I don't know how anybody used to attend one of my seminars and stay awake for it. I used to get all the way into how Social Security is calculated. I'm talking about down to the 35 earnings and how one coming in. I actually had on my computer the DOS-based software from the IRS. By the way, I think it's still DOS.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so, yeah.
And I could get your years of earnings. We would always verify, right? You want to talk about a nightmare, going through and verifying the last 35 years of earnings, okay?
Yeah.
Because the IRS messes it up. Not the IRS, Social Security Administration.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. You guys, yes. If you've not verified your work history with the Social Security Administration, like, don't get me wrong, I don't find government agencies that I interact with to be 100% a nightmare, okay? I've had really good experiences with the VA. I've seen clients have really good experiences with certain Social Security offices, not all. But it's a giant, bloated, antiquated government organization. They're not known for, I'll just leave it at that, right?
Fair enough. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So verify your earning years, right? And then there's this super wonky calculation that I use to actually explain to people, and I'm not even going to get into it now, but it creates this number, and then from that number comes your full retirement amount, right? Now, they're going to take, so it's not really called a provisional income calculation. I actually thought it was for the longest time. There's some other term for it. But we just, in the financial industry, we just refer to it as the provisional income calculation. And they're going to take 1/2 of your Social Security amount, all other forms of income, plus non-taxable interest, which I always thought was interesting.
It is interesting.
The whole point of investing in a Muni bond is to get tax-free income.
Yeah, now it's calculating.
Yeah, and so let me make sure people understand something. Not that this is useful to you. I just think it's important to know. In 1983, when they started to tax Social Security, they basically means tested it, right? And means tested programs are WIC, food stamps, Head Start, Section 8 housing. They're called entitlement programs or welfare programs. They decided in 1983 to determine the amount of the Social Security you had earned, to determine how much of it you got to keep based on your means. How did they do that? Because they couldn't tell you that, or you'd have been really mad back in 1983. Today, everybody's lived with it. Nobody thinks about it.
Yep.
The way they figured out how to do that was through this provisional income calculation by taking half your Social Security plus all other forms of income plus your non-taxable interest and adding that together, and it creates a number. And I don't think we're going to get into them, but there's single and married filing jointly. It's two different sets of numbers. And 0 to 1 number, I think it's for a married filing jointly, I think it's like 34,000 or something. So they created these brackets, right? And it just kind of like tax brackets. 0 to the first number, none of your Social Security is included for taxation. From that first number to the second number, up to 50% of your Social Security is included in taxation. And anything above the top number, up to 85% of your Social Security is included, and let me use specific words here, is included as taxable income. All right. So it's not taxed. It's included as taxable. It's not 85% tax. It's up to 85% is included in taxable income, and then you run through the rest of the tax calculations.
Yeah. And those numbers for married file jointly, it's under $32,000 combined income, 0% taxable. from 32 to 44, 50%, and above 44 is 85% taxable.
Got you. And I think I'm correct on what I'm about to say. Might not be. Similar to, there's a few things that the government has done where I don't know why, but they forgot to tie them to inflation. AMT is one.
Yep.
This is one. The definition of an accredited investor is one. Right?
It's kind of mind-boggling that these aren't adjusted because
they should absolutely be adjusted.
A big difference over time.
Yeah, just think 10 years ago, this number was still $32,000.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
And then this time in the future, every single person on the planet is going to be an accredited investor.
Well, yeah.
Makes no sense.
So when it comes to, just like with AMT too, more and more, they initially launched AMT to get 155 people. That was it. You were promised this is only going to affect 155 people. They'd be the wealthiest 155 people in the country. And this is to ensure that those 155 evil capitalist warmongers paid some amount of tax.
Yeah.
Today it impacts millions because it wasn't tied to inflation. Okay? Think about this. Why do you think they didn't tie this to inflation?
Because then more of it's taxable.
More and more your Social Security is taxable.
So, of course, they're not going to touch it.
Because $32,000 in 2026 ain't $32,000 in 2006.
Yeah, it's not much now. Not much.
Yeah. Yeah. What does that get you? Like a week's worth of Happy Meals? Nah, just kidding. All right. So, yeah. So, and I love like one of your points that you put here. Taking benefits early can limit opportunities like Roth conversions because it's increasing your taxable income and it's narrowing the window on your tax return. Now, one thing to think about though is because 15% of it is not taxable. If you delayed to 70 and you got the maximum dollar amount, that means the 15% that's not taxable is also larger. So how much is that going to matter? I don't really know.
No,
okay,
not much.
But it is another little tiny hinge to think about. And then just trying to think of what else would be good to throw in here about taxes. But yeah, and so I mean your point, right? Social Security timing is not just an income decision; it's a tax decision.
Yeah,
right.
And
a longevity decision,
as we've hit on many times before on tax. On taxes, Roth is a powerful vehicle to have your money in, and you can mitigate a lot of these taxes. You can mitigate taxation on Social Security altogether. Like if you had all your money in a Roth.
Yeah, if all your income came from Roth and Social Security, you don't have to file a tax return.
Yeah,
there's no tax return requirement to file a tax return when you don't owe taxes.
Yeah,
that's a $400 a year savings right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it's a little hinge, but it matters, right?
Yeah.
Now, something else that's really cool about Social Security is you could have worked your entire life in a state. There's 7 to 9 states that tax Social Security. Kansas and Missouri did away with it in 2024, I think. And so previous to 2024, I've watched people, and I've told the story a bazillion times. I've watched somebody take 10 grand out of IRA and in the $100,000 to $120,000 income range. And that 10 grand ended up being taxed at 35%. The 10 grand itself didn't. It's that it bumped them up on the federal taxation on their Social Security, and it triggered, because Kansas was $75,000 of adjusted gross income, and then they would tax your Social Security if you broke that. Missouri was $100,000 of adjusted gross income. So when they took this 10 grand out of their IRA, so if you're in a state that taxes Social Security, this is very important. They increased their federal threshold on how much was being taxed, and they triggered the state tax on their Social Security. And so that's why it appeared as if they lost 35% of that 10 grand, right? How many times in a year are you going to do something that eats 35% of your withdrawal and have your financial plan work out, right? It's going to start to get a little difficult.
Yeah, that's where proper planning comes into play.
Yeah, and so Social Security, you could have worked your entire life in a state that taxes Social Security. And if you stay there, they're going to tax it as you get it. Or you can move.
Yep.
And now it doesn't get taxed. So it's taxed based on where your residency is. So
it's always also important.
Yeah, so a lot of my clients like to move to Florida and Texas.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah. Now, if you're going to just go ahead and vote to turn those into tax hellholes, then I'd suggest you stay where you are.
Yeah. Eventually, probably will. So I think that's most of what I've got to cover. You have anything else before we kind of wrap things up here?
No, we covered how the decision impacts married couples. I do like your last one, right? So just to summarize, right? If someone's trying to decide right now, what should they focus on? Health outlook, life expectancy, the taxation, how withdrawals today can keep money preserved in their other investable accounts, growing at probably a higher rate. Spousal coordination, incorporated into your other incomes like pensions, annuities, and things like that. But basically, ultimately, treating it as part of your overall, recognize it's $1 million asset. Start there.
Yeah.
Give it the importance that $1 million that you would give to any bucket of money that's $1 million freaking dollars. Right?
Yeah.
Treat it as if it was, because it is.
Yeah. 100%.
Right? So that's all I got.
Yep.
So until I think we got a couple other cool topics coming up. So hope you enjoy these educational videos. Feel free to email us with any questions, or if you think we should expand on any part of it, click like, subscribe, post, share, start us a GoFundMe campaign, whatever.
Give us all your money. Yeah.
I just want if you like it, let us know. Usually if you don't, those are the more comical comments that we like to respond to as well. So until next time, this is Elliot.
Nathaniel.
Signing off.